Yes. Okay. Hello. Welcome. I'm not sure if all of you know me. My name is Kate Lloyd, and I'm the Academic Director of the London School of English here in Ukraine. And I'm going to be talking to you today about some typical mistakes that Ukrainians make on the IELTS academic writing test. So this will be useful for any of you who are thinking about taking academic IELTS in the future or soon, whenever you want to. IELTS, just in case you don't know me, I want to tell you a bit more. I've been preparing students for IELTS for more than 10 years now. I worked for IDP Education, who are the co-owners of the IELTS test. It's the British Council, IDP, and Cambridge English. They work together. I worked for IDP Education in Thailand and in Vietnam. And I also prepared students for academic study for the University of Tasmania in Australia, but at their campus in Shanghai in China. I've been in Ukraine for about 5 years, or over 5 years now, and I've been preparing Ukrainian students for the IELTS test for all that time. And so with all of my experience with IELTS and my experience specifically with Ukrainian students, I'm going to tell you now about some of the mistakes I've noticed that they make, or that you might make, and how you can avoid making them. Let's start by thinking about the IELTS writing test. So, question for you guys. How many parts are there in the IELTS writing test? How many parts? Oh, Katerina has an answer. Anyone else know? Oh, okay, we've got 2 for Katerina, 2 for Alexander. Any other ideas? Okay. Everyone else is thinking, yeah, I got it. Yeah, you're right. There are 2 parts. We call them task 1 and task 2. Task 1, you have to describe some kind of data. It could be a line graph. It could be a bar chart. It could be a table. You might have to describe a process of how we make something. A rare one, but it happens, is you get 2 or 3 maps and you have to compare them. Task 1 is like this because it's the academic IELTS test. And when we study in university, as you know, if you already study in university, we have to deal with data and information, and we have to learn how to present it in an academic way. So task 1 is seeing whether you know how to deal with data. Task 2 is an essay. Most people are familiar with essays. You write essays if you've taken a Cambridge First or Cambridge Advanced exam. You write essays for university, for school. Most people know what essays are. We're quite comfortable with those. And it could be any type of essay. So it could be advantages and disadvantages. It could be for and against. It could be talking about the causes of a problem and the solutions. It could be a mix of these things. There are different types of task 2 essay that you have to write. There are 2 parts, but they are not equally balanced. Task 1, you only need to write 150 words. But task 2 is 250 words. So another question for you guys. Which task do you think gives you the most points? So which one is weighted more? Task 1 or task 2? I've got, who's got answers for me here? Task 2 from Olga. Katerina. Maxime, who've we got? Task 1 for Maxime. Okay, equally. Wow, we have 3 totally different answers there. Excellent. Okay, at least I think I'm going to teach you something today, right? They're not equally weighted. Task 2 is worth 2/3 of your total writing mark. And task 1 is 1/3. So you get more marks towards task 2 than task 1. So if we think about this for a moment, this is what causes some of the biggest problems that I've noticed with Ukrainian students and the academic writing test. And the big problem is with time management. So if we have 1 hour in total for the writing test, how many minutes do you think you should spend on task 2 and how many minutes on task 1? What do you think? Katerina, okay, good idea. Yeah, you're getting exactly where I'm going. Yeah. You're going to spend 20 minutes on task 1 because that's 1/3, and 40 minutes on task 2 because that's 2/3. 20 minutes and 40 minutes. And here is where the first problem happens. As I said, we know how to write essays. We've described essays a lot. And task 1 is usually more unusual. It's newer for most IELTS candidates. So they start to write task 1, and it's new, so it takes longer for them to write. They want to remember everything that they need to include. They want to make a really good task 1, get a good score. But they write and they write and they write. When they finish task 1, 30, sometimes 40 minutes has gone. And now only 20 to 30 minutes is left for task 2. Sometimes this means that they don't finish task 2. They run out of time. So at the end, they lose marks for task 2. And task 2 is the most important part. So my advice to you is start with task 2. You know about essays. You understand essays. So start with the essay. Spend 30 minutes on the essay, and then you still have 30 minutes for task 1. If you start with task 1, you often take too long to complete it and then are too stressed for task 2 and don't finish. Another thing to do to improve your time management, of course, is to practice. Practice timing yourself to write an task 2 essay. Practice timing yourself to write a task 1 graph description in 20 minutes. Use a stopwatch, but practice. Now, this idea of time and words is also relevant to the next problem that students have. And this is that they don't write enough words. As I said, task 1 is 150 words, and task 2 is 250 words. This is the minimum. You have to write at least 150 words for task 1 and at least 250 words for task 2. You have to write this or over. There's no problem if you write more. You can write 350, 400 words if you can write that in the time. That's not a problem. The problem is writing too little. To try to stop this happening, you need to learn what 150 words looks like for you. If you're writing on the paper-based test, then you can see how long 150 words is to you. How long is it? If you're on the computer-based test, how long is 150 words in your, on the computer? How long does 150 words, what does it look like? The same with 250 words. What does 250 words look like when you write it or when you type it? You don't really have enough time to start counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, every single word. So try to be aware what it looks like. If it looks too short, the examiners will count your words. They know what how many 150 words is. So make sure that you know as well. Another problem with both task 1 and task 2 is with copying part of the question. Alexander, it's a good question, and I will answer all the questions at the end. So keep asking. That's not a problem. I'll answer it at the end. So be careful about copying part of the question. If you copy words from a question, is it your English or is it the examiner's English? It's not yours, is it? So the examiner is going to think exactly the same. If you've copied it, maybe you don't know how to say it in your own words. You need to learn to paraphrase. Learn how to paraphrase task 1 questions and task 2 questions so that you never copy parts of the question. Okay, so we've looked generally, and I want to look now at task 1 in more detail and task 2 in more detail. So one of the biggest problems with task 1 for students, for all students, but students in Ukraine, students at London School of English always have a problem with this, is writing it like an essay. Like I already said, task 1 is designed to test if you know how to write about data, about facts and information. It's not an essay. If we look at this graph here, it shows the drinking habits of people in Australia. So it shows whether they buy fresh coffee, instant coffee, or if they prefer to drink coffee in a coffee shop. And this is the sort of introduction that students here often say. Coffee and tea are very popular in Australia. Many people enjoy them in the mornings before work. Some like to visit cafes, while others drink them at home. This would be very nice in an essay, but task 1 is not an essay. We have to do this differently. I'm going to show you how now. This is a better introduction for a task 1. The graph displays how Australians consume coffee and tea in 5 different cities. Overall, visiting cafes is the most popular way to drink coffee or tea, compared with drinking them at home. And there are 2 parts to this introduction. Let's look at each part. The first sentence is an introductory sentence. It introduces what we can see in the graph. And it's a paraphrase of our question. So our question, the chart below shows the results of a survey about people's coffee and tea buying and drinking habits in 5 Australian cities. So I've paraphrased it. The graph displays how Australians consume coffee and tea in 5 different cities. Absolutely just a paraphrase of the question. The second part we call the overview. This is like the overall main thing that we can see in the graph without any data, with no details, just overall. So overall, visiting cafes, which is the grey one, the big one here. Overall, visiting cafes is the most popular way to drink coffee or tea compared with drinking them at home. If we put it together, you can see both parts, our introductory sentence and our overview. The next problem that students have when they're dealing with task 1 is just that they don't have the vocabulary to be able to do it properly. And they can't use the relevant vocabulary that they need. Generally, it's just because they've never had to describe data in any English class before. So they've never had to learn or practice this kind of language. Let's see what you know. All right. So here is a graph showing change. It could be a bar chart, a table, a line graph. What words do you know? What could we use to describe this trend we can see here? Cool. Yep. Yelena, increase. Excellent. Any more, anyone? No one else is sure? Okay. Yep. Increase is one. Maxime, have you got one? Oh, everyone is writing now. Rise. Yep, that's a good one. Rise. Growth. Okay. Yep, good. Yep, we've got rocket to rocket. Nice phrase, Katerina. Nice. Yeah, we've got lots of phrases we can use for increase. Increase, rise, climb, grow, a significant growth. We can use them as nouns and verbs. We can add adverbs, significantly increase, rise rapidly. Going down, we've got decline, we've got fall, we've got drop considerably. If we're talking about lots of change, fluctuate. We have fluctuate. We need to know relevant vocabulary to describe a change graph effectively. But it's not okay just to have one type, because a bar chart can show comparison between different categories. And when we have this, we need comparison language. This we're usually okay with because you study comparatives in your English classes, so we know how to say much higher than, by far the highest, things like that. But this is slightly different again. If we get a pie chart, we now need language about proportions, the vast majority, tiny minority. There's lots of relevant vocabulary that we need to describe graphs that we have to learn in order to get a good score. So here we've got line graphs, pie charts, bar charts. And this is another thing that students make mistakes with when they're preparing for task 1. They only focus on certain types because these are the ones that we see the most. And yes, there are bar charts. They are very common. Line graphs, like this one, are common. tables. Now, in a table, it could show proportion or it could show change. It could show both. With pie charts, you might have one pie chart or two or six, like this question. How is the way we answer them different? There are also questions where we have a mixture. So tables and pie charts, or a bar chart and a line graph. And we need to know how to organize, how to describe these kinds of different patterns. And as I said, it's not only about graphs and charts, processes, how to make something. This one is about cement, how to make cement and concrete. And this is different language and a different way of writing again. For this, we need passive voice. We also need to have time markers to describe when things are done. Different language, a different way of doing it. Maps is not very common at all. Maybe like once a year or something, very rare. But you don't want that very rare once a year to be your IELTS test, do you? If you haven't prepared. So with maps, you might get 2 or 3 maps to compare. And the language again is different. We need more geographical language to the north, to the south. We need language for development. So, well, be built, renovate, relocated. We need lots of extra language, and it's important that we practice all the different parts. So when we come to the test and when we sit down, we know exactly what kind of language we're going to need and we know exactly how to do it. All right, let's put task 2 aside for a minute and let's look at writing task 1. And look at the number 1 problem that I think students have. Students in Ukraine particularly with writing task 2. And this is often students who are very good at English. And they have really good language, great grammar. Their listening and their reading scores are fantastic. It's brilliant. But they don't answer the question. And this causes lots of problems. The way this happens is that they open the paper and they see the question and they know about this topic because they've thought about it, they've practiced a similar question, they've spoken about it in English classes. So they think, okay, yes, I know this, let's go. For example, this is a typical IELTS writing task 2. Some experts believe that it is better for children to begin learning a foreign language in primary school rather than secondary school. Do the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? This question is asking you to compare the advantages and disadvantages of learning a foreign language at primary school compared to starting in secondary school. So advantages might be that it's better to start learning languages as early as possible, as I'm sure you guys know. The disadvantages might be that children are not mature enough to learn languages. I don't know. It's your opinion. But what happens here is students see this. They see this question and they see children learning a foreign language, And they write the advantages and disadvantages of learning a foreign language at school. So, advantages of learning a foreign language. It's good for your job. It's good for travel. And they miss the point of the question. It's not asking that. And this is what we get. You miss the point. You talk around the point, but never actually answer the exact question. There are two ways to avoid this. The first one, read the question carefully. Underline the key words. What are they asking you? Don't open, look, jump, right. Think first. What is it? The second one, make a plan. I know you don't have much time. You have 40 minutes. It's not long. There is no time to write a plan. But there is. If you write a quick plan, a couple of minutes, it doesn't take that long. And writing a plan can be the difference between the score you want and missing the score you want because your writing score is not high enough. The plan will help to keep you in the right direction, to keep you on the point and stop you going this way or going this way. Keep where you're trying to go. And where we're trying to go is to the conclusion. And here is another problem. This is very typical of students in Ukraine. Actually, students in China did this a lot too. It's not just you guys, but it's a very typical thing of all of my students at London School of English. And that's not writing a proper conclusion. If we look at a different question here, we look at some people think that it's better to educate boys and girls in separate schools. Others believe that boys and girls benefit more from attending mixed schools. Discuss both these views and give your opinion. And when students get this task, they answer the question, they talk about the advantages and disadvantages of single-sex schools and mixed-sex schools, but this is the conclusion that they write. Boys and girls can study together or in separate schools. Every parent must make their own decision on what is best. Yes, of course, this is true. But you didn't give your own opinion. That's not your opinion. We have an idiom in English. I don't know if you have a similar one in Ukrainian, but we have an idiom called that is to sit on the fence. To avoid making a decision on whether to go to this side or this side. And in a conclusion for task 2 in IELTS, you have to not sit on the fence. You have to actually give an opinion. I know that sometimes this happens because you don't know. Like, what is right? Should they go together to the same school or different? It doesn't matter, your opinion, at all. Right? Make a decision on one side and write about it. Your writing examiner is never going to see you again. He's never going to meet you. They're probably in a totally different country, not even in Ukraine. So it doesn't matter what your opinion you write, just write an opinion. For example, here is a better conclusion. So while there are obvious educational benefits of single-sex schools, I believe that these are outweighed by the social advantages of studying together. Now you can see here, you can see that my body paragraphs were of course about it being less distracting if boys and girls are together in the same school, but socially advantageous. And this is what I've written in the conclusion, but I've made my decision. It's better to study together. Now, the next mistake that students make is a small one, but it can be cause big problems. And that is using an eraser if you have a pencil. If you're doing the computer-based test, I guess this won't be as big a problem anymore. But if you're hoping to take a paper-based test, this is something to remember. If you make a mistake and you write a paragraph or a sentence and you're not happy with it, don't spend a long time erasing everything to then write it again. It's wasting time. You don't have enough time. So, if you make a mistake, you decide you don't like the sentence or you don't like the whole paragraph, cross it. Just cross it out and start again. The examiner doesn't care if it's beautiful or not. They are not going to take it home and put it on the wall. They want to know what you can write. If you want to add something, put an asterisk and add it there. They will understand these things. But don't spend a very long time erasing your mistakes because it's going to waste time completely. Okay, so I've run through some of the problems that we have with task 1 and task 2. And you can see that sometimes some of the task 1 parts can be quite complicated and are going to take you a lot of time to practice. And there are some really, really good books, some good websites about how to do task 1 and task 2 at IELTS. But I think a problem that you have if you try to prepare completely on your own is you don't get any feedback. And if you don't get feedback, you don't know what you're doing right and to continue doing this, and you don't know what you're doing wrong. You don't know what you need to improve and how to improve it. Getting feedback from experts in IELTS on how to be better at writing is going to be the key thing to get the score you need in your academic writing task. Now, at London School of English, we have a few products that can help you with this. The first one is our IELTS consultation service. Now, I'm looking at your names, and I'm not sure if any of you have already come and had a chat with one of us in the last few weeks about IELTS consultation, because we've done quite a lot recently. But in our IELTS consultation, you get a one-to-one conversation with one of our London School of English IELTS experts. We start off with 20 to 30 minutes where we sit down and we talk about why you need IELTS, what score you need, how much experience you have of doing it. So the first part is quite short. We can do it face-to-face, but we can also do it online. It's easy online. We find out more about you, and then we send you a practice test. So a full practice test to take, which you then send back to us. We will mark it. You will get predicted scores for reading and listening for that test. And we will give you a full speaking test, and then give you feedback on your writing and speaking. We will show you whereabouts you are now and how to get where you want to be. And then together, we will plot your route to IELTS success. So we will work out the best way for you to get the score you need. And this might be an IELTS course. This might be just some one-to-one lessons with one of us. It might be that you're not ready for IELTS yet. You want to continue general English to improve your English level before you take IELTS. Or maybe you're totally ready and you're off to take it next week. Whichever way, we'll work with you to give you as much success as possible. At the top banner, you can see where you can click and you can find out more about the consultations. At the moment, usually our consultation service is about 800 hryvnia. It's going to be 800 hryvnia for 1.5 hours with us, with mock tests provided and with feedback. But in November, because we just launched this product, we're giving a discount, and it's currently 200 hryvnia. Now, this is only for November, and it's the 24th of November today. I think November ends on Monday. So if you want to take us up on this offer, get in quick because we've only got a few days left. If you really think you need a lot of focus on writing, then you can take one of our courses. So our courses at LSE to prepare for IELTS are 8 weeks long. So we offer courses twice a week during the week. Now, if this is online, it's Tuesday and Thursday. If it's in Odessa, it's Tuesday and Friday. And there will also be a face-to-face course 2 days a week at Liverpool starting on the 18th of January. Also online, you can do once a week. So you can have both sessions on Saturdays if that's easier for you to work around your job or your studies. And in these courses, we'll focus on all the writing types, all the task 1 and all the task 2 types. As well as writing and lots of feedback on your writing, on each thing you write, you will also look at speaking, reading, and listening. So all the different types of questions. Excuse me. At the end of the course, you do a mock test, so a practice test. And you get feedback on this test. And the test will tell you where you are now. So do you need to focus more on reading or listening? Do you need to do more writing practice? Or are you ready to do your IELTS test now? Now, if you're interested in taking one of these courses and you're ready now, then our online courses, they actually start this week. In fact, one of them is now. It's starting tonight. But that's fine. You can join our class on Thursday. You will only have missed one lesson. It's not a big problem. If you want to join our Saturday group, it starts this Saturday. There's only a few places left. So if you're interested, then follow the links we've got in the chat, or call our office and we'll be able to get you registered on this course. Of course, if you don't know me and you don't know London School of English, then you may wonder why you should trust us for your IELTS preparation course. And that's a perfectly good question. We've been in Ukraine for more than 20 years. I think we opened the first school in 1996. In our time, we've got over 20 years experience in teaching IELTS. And we have satisfied students who have got their score to study abroad and are studying or have studied in Poland, in Germany, in the UK, in America, all over the world. Part of the reason for our success is that our IELTS trainers are really, really highly qualified. So the majority of our IELTS trainers have a postgraduate diploma in teaching English as a foreign language. So all of our teachers are certificate qualified, but our IELTS trainers are diploma qualified as well. And some of them also have master's degrees. So they've got a lot of experience and qualifications in teaching IELTS. As I already said, we offer both classes online and face-to-face. If you can come to a face-to-face class at a school, it's great. But I know now everyone doesn't really like going to schools too much. And also, you might not be near us. If some of you are in different cities, there's not a London School of English there. Or maybe you're just busy and it's easier to just finish work or finish school and turn on your computer and listen. We can also organize one-to-one lessons online or face-to-face. You know, if you got your exam soon and you just want a bit of preparation, then let us know. So let's have a look. What questions do you have? Like I said, if you have questions, type them in the box. I think Alexander had a question here, all right? Where are we? Q&A, there we go. And There we go, publish. Okay, so when I was talking about word count, this was, I think, Alexander, right? You asked me if everything is counted. The examiners know what 150 words looks like. So they will count the words. If they think you haven't written 150, they will count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to make sure that you have the right number of words. So make sure that you know what 150 words looks like for you, how big it is. Does that answer your question? Anyone else for questions? Quickly type them now. Okay. If anyone else is there, Yelena, Ina, Olga, if you want to ask any questions now, Maxime, then write them. Yes. Oh, yes. Everything is counted. Prepositions, articles, capital letters, every single word is counted. It isn't just nouns or adjectives. Pleasure. Thank you, thank you, Alexander. Okay, have we got anyone else with questions? Okay, Yelena's asking a question here. Yes, Yelena, let me put this on the board. There we go. Okay, so Yelena asks, what if the second part is not finished? Can we still get some mark? Yes. It isn't like some exams where if you don't finish it, it's 0. You still get some marks. You'll get marks for grammar. You'll get marks for vocabulary. You will get marks, but you won't get as high a mark as you want to get. It will be lower because no conclusion, not enough words. There will be some mark. Does that answer your question, Ilana? Oh, great. Thank you. Okay, so we've just got about a couple of minutes now. So it's just time for me to say thank you. Thank you, you guys, for listening to me today. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for participating. It's been really nice. If you want to follow us on Instagram or Facebook, we will publish details of other IELTS events and webinars and question and answer that will be running next year. So if you follow us on Instagram, all the information will be there. And also there's some useful, cool posts every week about idioms, for example, about short videos from our teachers, about American slang, things you might be interested in. There are Instagram story quizzes for you to test your vocabulary. So if you're preparing for IELTS or improving your English, then give us a follow on Instagram and or Facebook, and you'll find out what we're doing. Okay, so that's all I'm going to say is thank you very much for coming, and I'll hopefully see you at one of our events again. Have a great evening. Okay, bye-bye.